Waiting can be real work, but I've noticed something strange about what people call being ready. Most of the time, they don't actually mean prepared. I think they actually mean that they feel more calm. They're more at ease. They don't feel as uneasy as they felt yesterday. I'm starting to think people think that being ready means they feel okay. Yesterday, my initial response or my initial reaction to the bad news, I felt so anxious. But today, I'm kind of doing okay, so I think I'm ready. And I think that is a bit of a misconception. I don't think ready means that you feel less anxious at all. I think it's a totally different definition. I think we need to start understanding the differences between readiness and comfortability. Just because we are not thinking about something constantly anymore doesn't mean that we are prepared to handle our situations at its full entirety. And I think that's something that needs to be addressed so that going forward, most of us will have the logical thinking to understand the difference. Because readiness doesn't mean that the timeline is understood. Readiness doesn't keep that into consideration at all. It doesn't mean that we have all of our options mapped. Just because you feel a sense of readiness doesn't mean you're actually prepared because you know nothing about the circumstances. Or you're just ignoring it. We gotta have our consequences measured in order to understand something at its full nature. We just have to. I'm starting to notice that most people would rather lie to themselves and more lead into the feelings of comfort than reality. Because to me, as I've been, analyzing life and just, studying certain people's behavior, I started to think like maybe ready doesn't really mean that the situation changed at all. It just means the feeling did. I've said in the past that waiting can be learning. Waiting can be observation. Waiting can be positioning. And I still stand by that. But sometimes we may use waiting as a justification of stagnation. So if we're not using waiting as a tool to strategically or tactically reach our goals, then our form of waiting is just toxic to our situations or circumstances. Sometimes telling ourselves things like, I'm not ready yet. I don't think I'm ready yet. It can sound mature, like you are being strategic. But if a form of nothingness is coming behind that, then waiting would just be wasting time. And some people think that, their waiting isn't wasting time. But I can tell you what my opinion is that you're just using waiting as a way to buy some emotional space so you feel comfortable. And if that's what you're doing, you're using waiting as an excuse instead of as a weapon or tool for your prosperity, then you are making a totally bad mistake. I don't want people to watch one of my last videos and them to take as take what I was saying about, how waiting can be a tool. I don't want them to take it wrong and use it as a tool of destruction and stagnation. Because the issue isn't waiting at all. The issue is what most people are waiting for. And they're not waiting on clarity. They're waiting more for things like comfort. I'm beginning to notice just because we think we are ready, whether we feel this way or not, the truth is the truth. Nothing is going to get better. Nothing is going to get worse, because time is going to keep moving quietly in the background. And if we were actually ready, we would have all of this in mind while we were making our decisions. And I just keep seeing people use these terms as an excuse to just let time pass and circumstances get worse and worse and worse and worse. And I just felt like I had to, express this out loud. I come on here because a lot of times I want to, express my inner thoughts. Because maybe what I say, it touches someone else's soul and sparks action and understanding. So in their situations, when they're going through these feelings of distress and hardship, they know how to take a breath back, take a step back, think, and be like, hold on, am I prepared? Am I assessing the situation correctly? We have to get back to taking control of our destinations without letting our emotions play the front while our logic sits in the background. Because when we do that, that's how people drift into what I call stagnation. Not because they chose the wrong direction, but because they wasn't forced to make a decision at all. Because if you want to hear it from me, standing still can sometimes feel very safe until it isn't. Pause for a second. If this is landing for you, don't just listen, engage. Like the video, drop a comment, and subscribe if you want more conversations like this. All right, let's get back to it. We have to always keep the timeline in our minds at all costs. We have to protect the timeline. Once you understand your whole spectrum of the situation in its entirety, you have to understand how long you have to perform. The timeline is always key. And I keep seeing people ignoring that. Like their feelings are gonna matter to the timeline. I wonder why. Feelings change faster than an infant's diaper, my people. And I'm gonna just say it plainly like that. They do. Because the initial response to a situation, you're always at your most emotional state. And that's not the state where you want to make a decision. You always want to, sit for a few hours, maybe 24 hours or whatsoever, depending on your timeline. You don't want to immediately react, and you don't want to react too late. So you have to, keep the timeline in mind when you are trying to accurately assess your situation. So I would say give it about an hour to, take a breather and then come back to your situation and see if you still feel the same way. Once you start, calming down and you're able to use your brain and the stress is not putting too much pressure on you for you to, your brain to perform at its best, then you can, try to move on with the best decision as possible. We have to understand that pressure always influences decision making. And once we can consciously, keep that in mind, I think we will make better decisions going forward. Even if you don't make the correct decision at hand, if you can consciously reassess after it happened, you will be able to pinpoint exactly why you fell victim to your emotions in that hardship or distress situation. And once you can do that, then the next time you get into a negative issue, you're going to be competently able to react instead of just emotionally pushing things out for no apparent reason. When you say you're ready, you can actually be ready. And it's not just an emotional thought process. Readiness shows up after all of your options and all of your leverage shrinks to almost nothing. Don't wait for readiness. Logically prepare yourself, because calmness arrives late sometimes. The timeline doesn't care how you feel at all. It doesn't check on you. It's going to keep moving regardless. And by the time your feelings of readiness arrive, the situation could have already been decided for you. All of these situations usually like to show up during times of hardship, times of distress. Hard situations reward awareness. They don't reward relief. Our feelings of relief are for us, and it can give you a bit of confidence, but it's better to use that confidence as fuel to actually get your jobs done. Take action to attack the situation head on. Like I said before, we have to start learning how to be comfortable with that uncomfortable feeling. When we start attacking our situations head on and immediately getting to it before the thing blows up in our face, things start going better for us. But I know, being early can feel awkward. That's why I think most people choose to let things pass and let it fly and just go with this indecisive mentality. They have this indecisive nature, and that can be more detrimental to the situation than anything else. So while being early feels awkward, being late feels urgent. And once you already get to that point of urgency, then you're going to be spiraling out of control. So it's my opinion that we try to get a hand on that. Let's logically attack our situations head on so we don't have to deal with chaos in the future. Even if it's chaotic from the beginning, we can really soften the blow if we start attacking hardship situations early on rather than later. I've handled a lot of my situations, that I let spiral out of control, but I'm just at a point where I'm trying to get a hand on it, and it's just been on my mind. So I'm just really pretty much thinking out loud, and I'm wondering if this is relating with anyone else. I've definitely waited to the last minute to take care of situations and regretted it hundreds of times. Yeah, there's times where I've let things spiral out of control to the last minute, and throughout that whole process, I was telling myself I was ready when I didn't do any preparation whatsoever. I feel like I'm kind of in that situation now. As I told y'all, I have an on-site for my FLSD. I haven't really been studying for it too much. I still have time, so I have to grasp and take control of this situation so that starting today I can get this situation under control so I don't get to the exam and fall on my face. So we are all human. I'm not telling anyone who is handling these situations and spiraling out like you're less than, because we are all humans. And this is just our natural nature. I just hope that, me saying this, that a lot of us can get it under control. Because most people don't wait too much. Most people don't wait too long because they're careless. It's not that. It's not that they're careless. They just wait because they're actually just listening to the wrong signals. So the moral of the story is, I don't think readiness is something you feel, but I think it's more of something you recognize. And I just keep watching people miss that moment. It's Manny SharQ, Nubian Bread Network. Peace.